well-being, stay healthy. Health and well-being are tonics for a happy and stable life. Well-being on AD4 TV Radio brings you lucid insights and hands-on engagement of issues towards your positive well-being. Watch Well-being on AD4 TV Radio. Well-being, stay healthy. Hi there, this is Well-being on AD4 TV Radio. I am Eugenia Yoheme. Thanks for joining us. Depression can be overwhelming, making life seem bleak and hopeless. It can interfere with the ability to think straight, drain energy, and make it difficult to get through a given day. However the state, giving up is not an option. Joining me today is Diana Ayo. She's going to be talking to us on depression in this era of COVID-19. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
I'm so happy that you made it to the studio today.
Thank you.
Okay, so let us go straight to the point. Now, what is depression?
Well, depression is a medical illness. Most people go through in and out of it, so it's mild or severe. But basically, it's an illness that is just a state of low mood, a consistent and persistent low mood. So we have what we call the bad days, where you're not just up for anything. But with depression, those bad days are persistent. So every day for a season or a period stays that way. You're never able to basically snap out of it.
Yes.
So depression, in some cases, is biological, psychological, or it comes from a social instance. So a good example of a biological depression is postpartum depression. So when women have their children, biologically you can slide into depression.
Yes.
That it just comes from basically your hormones. You have no control of it, and you can just slide into depression.
Wow.
In our part of the world, in Africa and Nigeria, it's not something that people recognize or even want to know.
Yes.
But you can see a woman that just had a child that doesn't want to speak to anybody, doesn't want to hold the child, doesn't want to have anything to do with anything, and everyone is wondering why she's
What
that
is
way.
wrong?
So that's a good example of biological depression. So every day she wakes up, she doesn't want the child, she doesn't want to be spoken to, she doesn't want to eat. And then a social kind of depression is the kind of depression that we can get from COVID-19,
Yes.
where everything that you're used to, your routine, your way of life just kind of stalls, and that
Yes.
puts you in a place where, you're suddenly anxious, you can't figure things out, and then, you just fall into depression. But it's really just about persistent low mood, persistent form of sadness. That's the layman way of understanding
Yes,
it. Yes,
exactly.
that's what depression
Okay,
is.
so what are the signs? Are there possible signs somebody could just know that, okay, this child is about to suffer from depression or something like that? Is there a way somebody can just know?
So with depression, like I said, first thing is that you're going to be sad. So there's that sadness that you can't shake off. There is this feeling of hopelessness. There is this feeling of guilt. So some people fall into depression. So for instance, you lost a loved one, and probably you were told the person was sick, you didn't have time to go out visit, you prioritize other things, and then that person just dies. So there's this feeling of guilt. There's this social distance. You don't want to associate. You don't want to
with anybody.
with anyone. You are antisocial, like they will say.
Yes.
You don't want to do anything social. You plan an out time out with friends, and then all of a sudden you will just hope it never happens,
Yes.
or just turn off your phone.
Yeah,
So it's just consistent feeling bad, staying out of social events.
Yes.
Just
Don't meet
your
anybody.
mood will really just be down. Excessive crying. A lot of people will just find themselves
Thinking
crying.
too much.
Yes, exactly. You'll really be sad. You'll have a very busy mind. In some people's case, there is loss of weight. Some there is gaining of a lot of weight. Some people eat more. Some people lose their appetite.
A lot of things.
Yes, there's a lot of things that you just lose your basic, your routine, your proper, how you feel naturally, that happiness, and that's
It alters everything.
completely. Yes, it does.
Wow. Okay, I know that possibly there are a lot of things that might cause depression during COVID-19, but what is the highest cause of depression during that period of COVID-19?
I think it was more of fear.
Okay.
Just not knowing what COVID-19 was, coming up to the news every day and seeing numbers flipping up, and those numbers were real people. who were either sick or dead.
Yeah.
So it was just, I think for me, it was the key thing was fear. And then obviously there was a lot of anxiety from being locked down when you're able to pick up your bag and go at any point in time, and all of a sudden you can't even step out of your door for fear of being arrested or getting a disease. That was just key. It was a lot of fear and a lot of anxiety. For some people, it was loss of income. So a lot of organizations couldn't sustain
Normal
people.
money is not coming.
Yes,
like
yes,
before.
yes. So people couldn't understand. But the sad thing is that the bills didn't go away with the pandemic.
Yeah.
So you still needed to feed. Feeding was key at that point
It
in
was even
time.
more, so because everybody was staying at
Exactly. You eat. A lot of us added what we called weight. Oh my goodness. Then, because we're eating more, and there's something that comes with just being stagnant. You're eating, you're watching the news, you're scared, you're thinking a lot, you don't even know what the future is. Some people had admissions that they couldn't catch up with anymore, jobs offers that were turned down because now there was COVID, It was really fear. Fear was key.
Okay. So apart from depression, what other mental cases did people suffer from?
Okay, so there's a handful and a whole lot of mental cases. I'll just mention a few that people can relate with really fast. So anxiety is definitely a disorder. There's behavioral change disorder. There's postpartum disorder. There's post-traumatic disorder. So people who have gone through any event that has left some sort of trauma in them and they can't seem to get over it.
Yes.
So that's just really most of the disorders that are common and everyone can relate with. But there's a whole lot: bipolar disorder, people that have different characters or can display different personalities in a flash. So
that's one of them. Okay. So what are the guidelines necessary to manage this depression thing? Because it's so much for some other people. Resuming school after COVID-19, especially for children. You're not supposed to touch somebody anyhow. Don't shake your own body. You cannot even touch your nose and touch your eyes again. So what are the necessary guidelines to manage children that are suffering from it? Because that's gone a long way into their head. They're scared. How are they going to get back on track? Like, everything is fine now. How are they going to get back on track with their friends, family, and everybody?
Okay, so everything is not really fine right now. Everything is slightly better
yeah.
Especially in Nigeria. But COVID is still out there. I think that's one message that we have to always push. For children, I would use a good instance. When you board a plane and you're told, put your face masks, your nose masks before you help the next person in the case of an emergency.
Yeah.
And so I would say the message first is help yourself. As an adult or a parent or someone who is managing a facility that kids access, you have to ensure that your mind is safe and your mind is fixed. And then for kids, parents need to learn to listen to them. There are three things I use in teaching my son when he had to go back to school.
Okay.
And I just tagged it: accept, change, and connect. So the first thing he had to do was accept that there's going to be difference when he goes to school. He has to accept to wear face masks. It's really hard for an adult. So for a child, when you have to cover his nose all day in school, he needs to start to learn it and accept it in the house.
Exactly.
Right? He has to also accept that it doesn't stop you from loving your friends when you're no longer huggy and cuddly.
But you're scared because
Right.
you're not completely free like before.
Exactly. And kids don't know this. So there was a lot of, maybe because of my background, there's a lot of that talk and training in the house. So he needed to accept that change, that you can't be all lovey and dopey with your friends anymore.
Like before,
I mean, the simple dap when you cough,
It was new.
it was new, but we had to dance with it and sing with it and pretend there is a cough. So that change was there. And then he still needed to know how to connect.
Yes.
We didn't want him to become antisocial. We don't want our kids to basically lose the passion that comes with connecting and staying with human beings. So we still needed to let him know that you can look at your friend, but let him ensure that he's also wearing his face mask properly. Wear your face mask properly.
Yes.
If your friend is coughing or has a cold, encourage your friend to tell the teacher that he has a cold, or to dab when they cough. And so sometimes we cough in front of him and not dab, and he says, "Mama, you have to dab," and he goes, so it's just accept it, change, and also change the lifestyle. So now we are more deliberate of ensuring that, the nutrition balance, the child had more, ate more food that had vitamin C, that will protect the child. We didn't want to go all chemical. So the natural things that can give you the right vitamins or the right nutrient that you need to have, more immune protection. So we did that. So then we still, like I said, it's just make sure that the child knows that you can still live a normal life, but just a bit of accepting the change that is happening now. Yes, definitely.
Okay. I've been having a wonderful time actually with Diana Ayo, but we'd like to go on a short break. We'll be right back.
This is Impact 360 on AG4 TV Radio. This is a no-hold-barred program that x-rays and dissects, engages and interrogates, brings perspectives and understanding to anything and everything that impacts our lives, the choices we make as individuals, businesses, and state actors. Impact 360 leaves nothing out, from policy to people, lifestyle to culture, business models to innovation, and from known to the uncharted frontiers. Nothing is out of the radar. Everything in the circle.
You're welcome back. So we're talking about the child. So, children, sometimes we neglect them. Sometimes. Mostly for parents that don't have so much. Parents that are just trying to survive with their family. Once a child is up in the morning and goes out to play, everything is okay. They just take it that everything is okay. So how does a parent get to notice that this child is suffering from depression? Because if it's a mother that goes out to sell maize or corn every day, they don't know if this child is not mingling anymore. They don't know if they're not talking to their siblings anymore. What do you do to be able to manage this issue? The mental health issue.
Well, being a parent is hard.
Yeah.
We just really need to accept it. And it takes, I say it takes out something from you to give out something to someone, to have such a responsibility to create and to manage your life. You have to give up something. Okay. And one of the things parents have to be deliberate about is giving up some of their time. And like you said, you cannot identify depression except you are around the person. So the child would show signs of withdrawal. The child will show signs so if that was a child who would normally share his toys, for instance, and likes to play football outside with friends, the child will start to withdraw. You will see the child, engaging themselves more. You will see the child not wanting to engage in activities that involves other children. If the child is artistic, so if it's a child that draws, the child's drawings and paintings will tell you the emotions. So as a parent, you need to pay attention.
Yes.
The worst case scenario, you come back from work, it's so late, and maybe some parents will even come back and their kids have gone to sleep.
Yeah.
I would have days like that when I come back, my kids are probably gone to sleep already.
You're up in the morning.
Yes, and I'm up in the morning and they
already
it's probably
out again.
So that routine, it's a survival routine and we're all going through it. I don't even think that it has anything to do with your economic status. I think the higher you get, the more time you don't have.
Exactly.
Because you need more time to maintain that status. So I think it's just being deliberate. So I would come back, I would ask, did he do his assignment? Did his lesson teacher come? They say yes. I would pick up the note. I would go through it. I'm tired. Trust me. But you have to be deliberate. That's the extra sacrifice. I would go through it. Honey School has this brilliant thing where they have what they call a communication book. So each day the teacher writes in a book what the child experienced in school.
Okay.
And you, as a parent, you give a feedback. So it's so beautiful because you have to even be deliberate. You have to give feedbacks. So I take the book, I read, and I give a feedback.
Exactly.
And, I ask something about why was he. So if they say he was very quiet today, can you tell me why? Basically, and
yes.
I have that communication. So parents, regardless of your status or the school your child goes to, whether they have a communication book or not, you have to be deliberate. Like I said, a simple thing as checking your child's homework book or asking questions, you know. And sometimes, when a child goes through depression or when anyone goes through depression, your biology changes. So a simple question of, did he eat today? What did this child eat?
Maybe ask
how many times? Yes.
Yes.
Asking your domestic staff how many times your child ate in that day, how many times the child used the restroom.
Yes.
If you're a parent that is very conscious of your child, you know that, oh, my child will often on a good day eat 4 times or 5 times, have a snacks in between. Once there's a continuous report that eating system has changed, you need to take a step back and talk to the child.
Exactly.
And that's a good path. Parents need to talk to their children. They need to listen to them. So in a whole week, even if you spend just one day saying, how was this week in school? Even if you're pretending to listen.
Some parents
on
don't
your
do that.
Yes.
Some parents don't do
Yes.
that. So it's new for the children. They're scared.
Yes.
They might beat me. How my father beats me. There are some things I can't tell my dad. There's some things I can't tell my mom. Because the respect they have for me is going to drop, or my father beats me a lot, so I cannot do that. You know, some parents are not that free with their children. So with this, not every parent will notice. But that notwithstanding, we'll be talking about the child. How about the parent? What if there's a change in behavior? The parent is also likely to suffer from depression too. So what can we do about the parent?
Well, for COVID, there were times where we spoke to patients that everyone in the room, in that house, was suffering from depression. Literally everyone. Wow. The mother was suffering from her own, having the kids in her space 24 hours for months, and she couldn't just bear the noise. The father wasn't used to also being at home all day, and his income was shaking, and then the kids were also confused. I think for the parents, first of all, is to accept it. Is to seek help for it. And there are simple things, change your lifestyle. So if you are always up and going, try to start doing exercise. Take up a new habit, take up a fun habit. If you used to love cooking and now you don't have time to cook anymore, create time for it. Or if you're a very formal person, take up mentorship. So why don't you get in a volunteer into your organization and take up mentoring the person so that you're doing something fulfilling and watching somebody grow.
You don't have time to think about
Yes.
yourself.
That's something that helps. You just give it all back, and then very formal people do well with projects. So when they take up a volunteer and they are selling or giving back to that person and watching the person grow, there's an inner satisfaction. So what we're trying to achieve here is we're trying to switch you from depression, from sadness to joy, from not being excited to being excited.
Yes.
So when you pick up something, there's some sort of excitement that comes for it. Exactly. If you're someone that finds pleasure in things growing, then plant a flower.
Exactly.
Plant something, because what happens is that every morning you wake up, you will go and see it, and then there's a little green flower. The rose is out now. It gives that excitement, as little as it is. If you're someone that likes animals, get a pet.
Let it not be like you're not doing anything.
Yes. Something as little as getting a pet. If you're someone that used to be very active, but now you're no longer active, be deliberate about taking 20 minutes, 10 minutes walk. Just create your own space.
Exactly.
Be deliberate, because if you're a parent and you're going through depression, you can't help your child. You're completely useless to that child. So you have to take out time. Okay. Take out time. That's definitely key.
Okay. Losing somebody on a normal day is very hard to admit. Now, in the pandemic, if somebody dies, you can go to work, you can meet with people, you can think about it in between. But losing somebody during the pandemic, I know it's double, but what are ways that what are the things that somebody can try to engage in order to take your mind away? Make you feel better. Definitely it's going to come to your mind in between. But what are the things that you could do for somebody that has lost someone during the pandemic?
Okay, so I lost someone during the pandemic. And
wow.
It was really hard. The first thing was that you couldn't even access a hospital to be by the side of the person that was going, because there was a pandemic.
Yes.
And then you get the news that the person is dead, and you can't even move the person from one place to the other because there's a pandemic. And you have to go get a special certificate that says the person didn't die from COVID to even have access. So it was very traumatic. So I'll just give you simple ways that I use. I stay connected with family and friends. And one of the gifts that the pandemic gave us was that we can go as far and be at any time zone in different platforms.
Yes. And
so that's what we used. We created platforms where we came as a family to grieve together. And one of the best ways to grieve together is to talk about the pleasant times with that person. So there was a lot of sharing, and someone will come up with one sentence that the person would always say, and the other person will come up with with another sentence, and we would take one particular sentence and we would break it and analyze it. And people, because we're home, people would go and dig up old pictures and share, and everybody would talk about the memories around that pictures. I think the best way is just to stay connected with family and friends, stay connected to people who have pleasant things to say about that person, and just share. Just let it out, share, because as long as you are not sharing and you're quiet in the room or in the house, there's so many things. Your mind starts to think and share its own ideas. So, but if you're open and you're sharing with people who feel the pain that you're feeling, and you can always call someone and cry on the phone and stay there for hours because you don't have any other thing to do with yourself. But you're sharing, and and the greatest healer for grief is time, and you're burning that time. Just talking about that person. So definitely sharing.
Okay. A lot of things happened during the pandemic. People discovered so many things about their family. Usually very early in the morning, father will go to work, mother will go to work, and children will go to school. And this time around, everybody is back at home. So a lot of things happened. Now, what kind of advice are you going to give to families that have discovered so many terrible things about their family? That one alone is also a depression on its own, So what do you have to say to those kind of families? There's a lot to live for. That's one for me.
Okay.
So what would you say to those kind of families?
Well, I'll start with telling you something my mentor said to me when I was about to get married.
Okay.
He said a good marriage only lasts for 7 years. I'm like, what? But you've been married for 20-something years. He said, yes, that's because I'm really never with my wife. If you count all the years we've been together, it's 7 years. So he was saying how he would travel. She went for her own PhD program. And if you count all the times they've been together, it's really 7 years. So when the pandemic came, I had that joke on him, like, so now it's 7 years and how many months? I think that they need to appreciate the fact that they are different persons, and that different persons come with different personalities and characters and issues and secrets. However you react or define the depth of a secret is also a personal thing.
Yes.
There's something that you might say to me that I never knew about you, and to me it's not a big deal. And if someone else hears it, the person rearranges how they know you or how they take you.
Yeah.
So
because people take this differently.
Yes, it's so that personality thing. People have to first of all accept that you're my husband or you're my child doesn't mean that we have the same characteristics or personality. True. And when we are locked up together, our true personality starts to show. And when we accept that we have different personalities, the second thing for me is accept the role of each person in the house.
True.
So they would say A-type women, very strong personality women, don't like to be told what to do at all times.
Yes.
And most of them, they would say they are feminists, right? Well, feminism aside, is when the family comes together at that point, there's someone who, by science, by structure, just controls everything. Exactly. So regardless of your personality, when you accept the structure, and that is for work or home, you accept that there's a structure, someone is ahead of me at some point.
Exactly.
You would accept instructions, right? You accept suggestions. And then when you do all of that, then you would not feel tight, basically. So women with strong personalities who are boss of their self or their offices are not left in their houses with their husband who is bossing them around. They're having it. So the man is like, this is 2 p.m. Why haven't I had lunch? And this was someone that in her office, she's asking her PA, this is 2 p.m. Why haven't I had lunch? She's not used to that, and she's locked with that. She has to accept that.
Exactly.
The structure. She has to accept the personality. And then, well, if there are very awful things that, I killed someone before, I'm a murderer or something. Well, the secret is here. You have to deal with it. Yes, you have to deal with it. Yes.
True. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I don't know what to say, but I'm sure that I've learned a lot, and maybe talk to some other friend to watch this show, because today has actually been very, very impactful.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you.
It is easy to feel overwhelmed and in despair, but you can improve your mood and ease depression by changing focus, finding simple sources of joy Even the darkest days may not be that bad, nor gloomy. Find your happiness. It has been Well-Being on AD4 TV Radio. Thanks for staying tuned. Until I hit your screens again, bye for now.